Hello and welcome everyone. At the moment I'm clicking on remove on a lot of things. VST sound library, Groove agent, SE rock, pop toolbox, drums not found, blah 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 blah, VST sounds. These are presets from different stock plugins from Cubase like Helion and Groove agent and Retrolog and I don't know, all this kind of stuff. I removed them because I needed more space on my computer and these plugins are just garbage. I don't need them. I need only Synth1. Synth1 is the best synthesizer in existence. And you might not think that because you are like not as old as me. So you might feel like the best synthesizer in existence might be Serum. Or you might feel like the best synthesizer in existence might be Vital. Or you feel like the best synthesizer in existence might be one of the ones that I could not afford yet, like this big thing from Kilohertz. What was the name? Anyway, it's very modular and it's definitely really cool. Or you know, some stuff from Native Instruments that is very crazy. How was the name of that crazy thing that always has these glassy sounds? I don't know. Synth, yeah. That's also very cool. Or if you are going for a very cool workflow that's just very fast with wavetable synthesis, maybe Massive. I don't know. And there are many reasons to decide for different synthesizers to be the best synthesizer of all time. But my decision would always go to Synth1 because Synth1 has the most well-tuned parameters of all time and it does not have too much and it does not have too less. Wait, let me set up everything. Synth1 is the best synthesizer in existence. And I hope that I can show you the magic in this video. The problem with magic is that sometimes it goes away when it tries to be recorded. Magic is something that you can usually only gather by not trying to gathering it. You know, that's kind of the point of magic. But I think Synth1 might be able to withstand the recording, the existence of OBS recording me. This was a saw wave. Now we have a bunch of saw wave notes. And actually I would like to have twice the amount of these. And now I want to use a different speed because I'm usually using another speed. 142 is like one of my favorite speeds for some reason, I don't know why. Now I'm using a cool feature from Cubase because even though Steinbeck is total garbage at making plugins, total garbage, even though that is true, they are very good at some things, like this MIDI effect, for example. It lets you randomize the velocity of notes and it also lets you randomize the note value of notes. I did that in my last video in which I showed my plugin Nel Orbit in order to have a random melody. And then when you have randomized the melody, you can transpose it to the nearest scale, and I think that this Japanese scale always sounds very nice for some reason, even though I don't know what makes the Japanese scale Japanese, but I don't know, it just sounds cool. I guess it's just playing the black notes only or something. Let's go. Alright, I have to turn on the loop. So now the first thing you notice when you, at least the first thing I want to put your focus on is that Synth1 has this little visualizer down here for the ring buffer that is used for handling the notes. And if you turn up the release, then you can see how many free spaces you have left until you run out of polyphony. And there you see I ran out of polyphony, and when you do that you can just dial back until you reach a point where you don't run out of polyphony anymore. But usually you don't even need to get close to it. Oh wait, let me actually put a limiter on the master, just in case that I for some reason forget where I am with my volume. Yeah, that should be sufficient, even though true peak is not needed now. Yeah, great. One of the coolest things about Synth1 is the filter section, in my opinion. The filters sound really great. You have this low pass filter with a 12 octaves per 12 decibels per octave slope. It sounds good when you have this knob actually turned up a little bit higher, in my opinion. This knob called track, I don't know why they called it track, but why Ichiro Toda called it track, but I would rather explain it as some sort of curvature parameter, because when you turn it down, then you get a smooth round curve from the transient down, and if you turn it up, then you get more of a linear curve that sounds a little bit brighter. I mean, just check it out. You see the amount of the filter is always at the same spot, and you can also hear that the little pling at the beginning, the pling 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 pling, it's always at the same frequency, but the track parameter still changes how it sounds in between on the way down to sustain. If you had serum, that would be equivalent to having this compared to this, you know? Okay, good. So let's go on. And then you can make some very nice plucky sounds if you just play around with the decay a little bit, and you know, have the amplifier tag from filter all the way down. And what I really like is this filter that Ichiro Toda added a little bit later on to the synthesizer. Low pass DL, I don't know, diode, ladder or something like that. I don't know, but it sounds very nice. Just like LP24, LPDL is also a 24 decibels per octave filter, but the cool thing about it is that it sounds really awesome when you dial in some resonance. Do you hear that? I mean, LP24 also sounds nice with resonance, but I think LPDL really nails the resonance. It sounds even better when you turn down the amount a lot. Another thing that I want to talk about when it comes to Synth1 is its incredible workflow. the workflow is very peculiar from a nowadays point of view. But I think that it's a very powerful workflow. And I mean the detailed things, the things that you don't see the first time you just think of it. For example, if you click on a knob, then there is this thing going up and it will not go away until you click somewhere else. And the reason why I like that is because when you click on it, then you can use mouse drag motions to move the thing that appears. And then you can click on it again. And in some modern plugins, you can just mouse drag, mouse wheel drag the parameters directly. But in a lot of older plugins, there were no mouse wheel movements at all implemented. And that's how Ichiro Toda in the past solved this problem. Also, it's cool because then you can drag this. You basically have the choice if you want to drag more in a vertical way with this slider, or if you want to drag also in a vertical way with the knob, but you know, on a knob feels a little bit different. And yeah, I really like that because I'm someone who uses mouse wheel motions for most things. So basically I just click on the things, then I mouse wheel a little bit and then I go back, except if I want to go far away with the value, then I actually click and hold or just click somewhere. But if I want to be precise, then I use the mouse wheel. So this really utilizes the whole mouse in a good way. Now you might ask yourself, is that everything Synth1 has to for us? No, it's not. First of all, I have not even shown you the basic oscillator section yet. The basic oscillator section has a bunch of default waveforms, like sine waves. And, oh, this is the upper one. No, that's the lower one, lol. The sine wave, the triangle wave. I think the fact that it did not sound like a sine wave is because the filter also sort of reshapes the sound in some way. But that's also kind of the magical part of Synth1, you know, it always surprises you a little bit, but not in a bad way because it sounds good. Now then you have the Sawtooth Oscillator. Oh yeah, it's because I had the resonance turned in so much. See? Now, if you like super saws, you can dial in the dead thingy detune for detune. And the cool thing about this is that, well, that's something that you see in the whole plugin actually, that the parameter ranges really make a lot of sense. Like if you were in Serum, for example, and you wanted to dial in some super sawiness, then, oh no, not fine. You would go to detune and dial it in, I guess. And if you, let's see, yeah, if you are going further than 0.13, then you almost always just have already reached the point where it gets a little bit weird, and you can still go much further up to a whole note where stuff really makes no sense anymore. you know, I mean, what is that? And of course, that's okay. They can get away with that. The controls feel nice. Anyway, there is sensitive drag on shift mouse wheel and shift mouse drag, so so that's cool. One can easily just stay in this range, and it's cool. But the cool thing about Synth1 is that the parameter ranges just make sense completely. You can go very high, and it just reaches the point where it stops making sense up here. Or I guess that would still be a reasonable position for something modern, like, you know, PC music style, you know, hyperpop. There you can often hear some very harsh detuning, but it would still not go much higher than this, so that's a great parameter range. Then there is FM. FM makes more sense when you don't use detune, in my opinion. But it's not the best synthesizer for FM synthesis, because it does have internal oversampling for some of its modules. For example, just today I read in the manual that it has actually oversampling for this filter. But I'm not sure if it also uses oversampling for the FM. It would make a lot of sense, but it does not sound like that. So let's just ignore FM for now. It's not my favorite feature. What I like even more is the ways you can mix the oscillators with each other. So you have two oscillators. Nice. The different distortion effects are very different. The first one cuts away a lot of the low end, which makes it sound very lo-fi. The second one has a very nice, just very round sound that can often be used in a lot of cases to make it a little bit thicker. And this one, I cannot demonstrate it very well now, because it sounds best when the sound is not detuned and when you actually go into it with a very clean sound, because it's a very hard distortion. And then it can make some patches sound a bit like a distorted guitar or something. this is some sort of sample and hold thing. Then we have a bit crusher. Oh no, that was ring modulation. That was yeah, that was ring modulation and compressor. I wouldn't use the internal compressor of Synth1 because the knobs have no clear names and it's kind of hard to say what they're doing, to be honest, but the phasers sound really nice. That would sound nice with some automation. Yeah, there are also Lfos. But for the LFO, I wish I had a different melody. I want something a little bit slower. Yeah, you can also set them to tempo sync and to retrigger on notes. I didn't do that now because I just felt like this sounds pretty cool now. There are also some effects that you can add to each new note triggering, like a pitch envelope. It is applied to the second oscillator, I gotta say. That's kind of funny because it really highlights the aliasing of the plugin now, but it sounds actually quite cool. If you think of it, aliasing is actually quite a mysterious sound. Yeah, and when I'm done with a nice synthesizer patch in Synth1, and you know, when I took more care than I just did, if I'm not just using the randomizer of Cubase to generate a melody, then I just keep on shaping the sound with different plugins outside of Synth1, like reverbs. And suddenly I have something that kind of sounds really cool, and it does not sound cheap anymore. Because obviously Synth1 is not a wavetable synthesizer, and it will not create these very rich sounds that have this very peculiar stuff in it that you can easily make in Serum if you just slap in any wavetable that sort of is kind of weird, and then you are putting an LFO on the thing, and then like honestly, how would you do that in Synth1? No way to do that. But Synth1 can get you a lot of these very essential sounds, and then you slap some reverb on it and you have something that sounds very deep and true. Something that does not need the harmonic rich elements of a wavetable, but that can just speak for itself and has a lot of meaning just the way it is. Like I could go on with this and then use a compressor to enhance the density of the sound. Nobody would say that this is not big anymore at this point, and it's just 2 effects in. So, you know, the reason why I'm talking about that is not just because I always wanted to make a Synth1 review. By the way, it also has a nice arpeggiator. I will not go into that now because this video is probably already getting long, and I have university very soon. The reason why I am making this video is because Steinberg has announced to stop support VST2, and this is obviously not news because VST2 licenses are not being released anymore for newbie developers, which is why every developer cannot release every new developer cannot legally release VST2 plugins anymore. So if you are starting to develop VST plugins right now or since some years ago or something, then you will just have to release VST3 only. And that's why I, for example, do that. So there is definitely a tendency that more and more developers will drop VST2 support because obviously they just hire some new developers, and some of them are not into this for very long already, so they just legally have to do that so they can release their stuff. And that's why everyone should definitely get a DAW that supports VST3 so that you can use all these things in the future, you know, that's very important. But I think what's already a little bit important and that should not be forgotten is backwards compatibility. And even though I'm usually not the biggest fan of backwards compatibility, I think it's very important that we keep some of it there. Like we should not do everything just like Apple does, where you can throw away your whole machine every other year because they renew everything, and also the software developers have to renew their software so that it works with the new machines. And that's also why I'm a little bit disappointed by the developer Ichiro Toda who made this plugin, because I just found out a year ago he said that he dropped VST support and only supports Mac now, which is kind of weird because he has never worked on this thing for years. And then suddenly he says he wants to support an OS that forces him to always update the thing constantly, instead of just supporting VST, the people who have always supported him. And also, if you just release this to VST3 now, then it would probably work the next 20 years. So why not, right? So Ichiro Toda, if you see this, please, we are huge fans of your synthesizer. And I would even say, even though I like what I just did, that I did not even reach the maximum magic that you can reach with this plugin probably because of my recording, because as I said in the beginning, recordings alter the presence of magic, unfortunately. But you know, this plugin is so awesome that even without the full magical power of it, it still conveys its ideas in this video. At least I hope so. And that should show how important it is that this plugin survives every plugin format transition. So now we are transitioning from VST2 to VST3, and we need VST3 from this plugin. For example, Steinberg has said that they want to drop VST2 support, so it's easier to maintain their own products. But if you look at their own products, then you see that they are complete garbage compared to Synth1. Look, this is what you would compare Synth1 to in Steinberg Cubase. First of all, it looks ugly. You know, it has all this very unreasonable skeuomorphic texture that is just very exaggerated everywhere. But that's not the problem. I do have some plugins with a skeuomorphic style that I like EchoBoat, for example. I always find it very beautiful. Oh, I still need to download the new version. Alright. But you know, the texture is not too exaggerated, and the knobs are just still the foreground of everything. But in EchoBoat, everything just is so gray. And then how are you doing this? There is the oscillator section. Okay, the different oscillators. There are even more ways to move the sound in a certain direction than in Synth1, but it's also more complicated. So it's not simplified to the point where it's just fun and without having to use your brain so much, you know. The filter section, I don't want to go into that now, but I remember that when I tried it, I found it very weird, and I could not make it run the way I expected, and I had to search for the way to apply the envelope in the correct way. I think it's because there is no gain slider right at the envelope. Where is it? Maybe it's this one, probably. Then it has this weird looking mod matrix. No one likes mod matrices. Just so that you know, Steinberg. If I want to plug in with a mod matrix, then I get Serum. Because Serum has this, where you can drag something. And then only if you want to go to the mod matrix, and even this mod matrix looks different than this, because no one likes these things where you have to select something and then attach it to something else, and then even select a modifier. Like it's not enough that you have to select a source and destination by hand. Of course you can do that here too, but I like that you can also drag it and then modify just like that. And actually I learned how to do it like this, you know, like selecting something and then selecting something else on this side. I learned that in Serum, by the way. Why does it say FX? Oh, I'm in Serum FX. Anyway, I learned how to deal with old school mod matrices in the matrix mode of Serum. But I did not learn that in old school VSTs, because they just seemed so weird and intimidating. So there is really no point in pretending like this should be the standard way of portraying modulation in a plugin, really. And even I figured out not to do it, how to not do it like that in my plugin, where I also have drag and drop for stuff. And so I know that was not easy, but a huge software company who specializes in plugins and other audio software should have figured it out by now. Then there is this section, something with step sequencers and tempo and a lot, just a lot. And another window with effects that do different stuff and also look very intimidating and big, have a lot of knobs. Like they are not reduced to to, you know, just what you need. Look at the resonator. What the fuck is this? 3 chains of something with gain, something with ARP control, depth, something with resonance. Okay, there is something with filtering, something with LFO, something with ARP, something with gain. What is this? Can switch to LFO and suddenly it's something entirely different. I mean, this is a powerful synthesizer, probably, but it's very intimidating, and it does not have the best workflow because of that. I don't want to use it. I don't want to learn it. I would maybe choose a preset from this, but I would not use it myself. And this is something that I would use myself, you know. And I like plugins that encourage you to not just dive into the presets, but actually try them. But in order for a plugin to encourage you to do that, you cannot overload it too much. And you have not learned that when it comes to your synthesizers. It's the same for the other synthesizers. Groove Agent, Helion, they are all very complicated. I cannot demonstrate it now because I just removed all my Helion and Groove Agent banks, because they took away a lot of space on my computer and they did not really serve a purpose, because I have battery instead of Groove Agent, which is a very good drum sampler, unfortunately very expensive, because Native Instruments already reached the point where they make sort of unreasonable prices at sometimes, but only sometimes. The effect suit is actually quite cheap in my opinion for what it does, but this is very good. And for Helion, yeah, I don't know, I'm not a fan of ROM Plus and stuff anyway, so I don't have a real alternative for that. Maybe the free version of Contact could be my alternative Helion. But where did I want to go with this argument? Synth1, something with Synth1 or so. Diving into presets. I forgot where I was actually. Oh yeah, right. I just paused the video so that I can think about what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say is I wanted to blame Steinberg for even more plugins that they messed up. First of all, there was Quadrafus V1 in a very early version of Cubase. And I cannot demonstrate it now because it sounds better on drums than on pads and stuff. But it is a very hard fuzz box for all kinds of stuff. This is something from JBridge. And this is Quadrafus V2, then their renewed Quadrafus version for Steinberg, Cubase 64-bit and stuff. And it also sounds okay, but it's like not as good as Quadrafus V1. And I'm just wondering why they ditched the original algorithm. And also, they ditched one of the most important features of Quadrafus V1. Oh crap, now I can't get into it anymore. Alright. Which was that you could select different transitional curves for the frequency bands, you know, and that made the sound very different. Like you could go through these and it got a whole different sound character. And they completely ditched that feature from when they made Quadrafus V2, and that only shows to me that they did not really use their own plugins so much, because if they did, then they would have seen what a cool feature they had in their first implementation. Then there is the compressor. The compressor has no look ahead, which already makes it kind of silly, but it also does not sound good and it doesn't look good. And I don't know if it actually does anything good. But I also don't care at this point because I have Pro C. And now let's talk about the gate. The gate, what can someone make bad about a gate. A gate just has threshold, the way it analyzes the peaks, and then attack, hold, release. But wait a minute, where is look ahead? You might ask. Yeah, look ahead is this button, the live button. Click it and look ahead is turned off. Unclick it and look ahead is turned on. And then I tested that once and I found out that the look ahead in this plugin does not just compensate exactly the attack time that you set, but it compensates an arbitrary value that is just being defined by the ones who made this plugin. And it just completely makes no sense. When you use look ahead in a gate or an expander, then you're usually doing that to get over the whole transient, and the transient is defined by how long you have the attack time. So if you make it automatic, if you really insist on not giving the user a knob for the look ahead time, then at least make the look ahead time dynamic in conjunction with the attack time, Steinberg. And that's another reason why Steinberg should stop pretending like they are good at making plugins. They are not good at making plugins. They have a lot of experience making plugins. They are doing that for years now, and I'm only doing that for 2 or 3 years now, which means that I should be worse at it, but I'm definitely not worse at it. I'm actually already sort of better at it. Of course, I cannot do everything that they can. Like, they have spectrum analyzers. And in order to have spectrum analyzers, you have to figure out some very complicated algorithms like Fourier transform and stuff like that. And I can't do that because I'm not very talented at this sort of math yet. But I'm talented at seeing what makes sense musically. And some of the decisions that go into the plugins of Steinberg just make no sense. And if your argument, Steinberg, is that you ditch VST2 support so that you can support your own products better, then that's a bad argument, because you should fix your products first, the very basic core functionality of your products, so that your products are actually useful and make people not go to third-party plugins all the time. Because I can tell you, Cubase users are used to buy a lot of third-party plugins because of that. It's not like Ableton users. Talk to Ableton users. They always tell you how cool their compressor is, and that they are very unlikely to check out other plugins, which is of course a little sad for me as a plugin developer, because I think that VST is a culture and that we are all like it's not just a technology, but it's something that makes us get together and talk about stuff that works in all DAWs, you know. But it's also kind of cool that the people from Ableton manage to make plugins people are very happy with, so that they can just immediately start getting musical in the DAW when they've just bought it, you know. And yeah, and that's why I would say, before you start argumenting in such a way like you have to ditch some support so you can make better products, you should first like really make better products. You should make products that are at least half as good as Synth1, so that when the transition comes, when I actually buy a new version of Cubase, because at some point I will have to buy a new version of Cubase as a developer, so I can support products that work in the most modern DAWs and everything, but I don't want to use a DAW that does not have Synth1. And if none of your products are at least half as good as Synth1, then that makes me very sad. Really, I'm wearing a Synth1 sweater right now. And I got that from my girlfriend when I had birthday, because she knows that it's my favorite synthesizer, and it just feels bad that it might be abandoned. It's just Synth1. There is no point in supporting a DAW that does not have Synth1. Sorry, but that's just how it is.